Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the SSK Cyber Club. We are back after a short summer hiatus. I hope you all had a very lovely, very beautiful summer. We're excited to be back. And for any new friends that are joining us today, we are SSK, and that stands for Smarter, Safer, and Kinder Online. We started this club to talk about big issues and to build community around this very important topic. This episode of SSK is being sponsored by Kermode Education. Kermode is perfect for educators and parents who want to help set their kids up to be better digital citizens. By using cutting-edge software, Kermode helps users evaluate online content, build media and digital literacy skills, and flex their critical thinking muscles when consuming information online. This episode is being recorded, so you can always go back, watch it again, watch it with your kids or with your partner, with your friends, share it. Everybody can come back and watch it later. That would be great. And I'm your host, Paige Whitson. I'm a team coordinator and project manager for a Kamloops-based software company. And today I'm joined again by Sean Campbell. So very excited to have Sean with us again. Sean is a publishing industry veteran who's been working in ed tech for over 15 years. So he's a great wealth of information. And welcome, Sean.
Hey, Paige, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You had a great summer, I hope?
I did. I had a very nice summer. It was busy running around, but I kind of always feel like better busy than bored. And we put that saying to the test this summer with lots of trips. But it was great. How was yours?
Yeah, my summer was the same. It was busy, but that just means I made lots of memories and made the most of it. And we didn't have a smoky summer here in BC for the most part, which was just really wonderful. So I had to seize that.
It's everything now, hey? Because when it happens, you're almost completely shut down. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me back again. I love talking about digital citizenship and digital literacy. And today we're going to talk a little bit about creating positive content. I'm not going to sugarcoat it here, online world. Sometimes the internet can be a sad tire fire of negativity, right? And it's really up to all of us to not only create positive content, but reward people for creating positive content that we enjoy. And we'll talk about some strategies to do that with your kids or your students, so that you can make it a real community activity as well. And I'm just thinking, Paige, like when you're online, do you find it overwhelmingly negative or overwhelmingly positive or kind of a mixture? What are you seeing when you go online?
Yeah, that's a great question. I found that it really depends what platform I'm using online. So on Instagram, I feel like I have a lot more control because I follow the people that I want to follow, mostly my friends or family and some, maybe thought leaders, well-known, Instagram presences whose ideas or just content I really agree and resonate with. So I find I see more positive content there. When I go on Facebook, there's a lot of content on there that I don't have as much control over. Someone shares something from another person's page. So I find more negative content on Facebook for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that's very, very similar to my experience as well. What I find interesting is some of the sites like Reddit and YouTube. Often when I go in there, you'll just see what's trending and what's hot. And all too often I find it very negative. Like I kind of look for it now and it's like this person destroyed this person in an argument, or, this person was ridiculed, or this person embarrassed themselves, or fail this or fail that. Like it seems like it's kind of funny, but when it happens all the time and those are the top 10 or 20 things, I find it overwhelming. And we've talked a bit on these episodes about how powerful those algorithms are. And I feel like that's not indicative of my algorithm. That's indicative of sort of what everyone is paying attention to, right? Like that's where they're getting those videos from. So we can all do a bit better. And thankfully there's some really small things. I say small actions, but really they're just little habits that we can do online to really restructure the way we interact with each other online, but also the way the algorithms reward things online. And so the first thing we can do is just something we should do in person all the time, and we do often do in person, is if someone does something nice for you, give them a shout out. Like recognize that kindness online is a great way to show appreciation and build up that positive content. Or if you see someone who does something kind online or puts that gratitude into their social media feed or what have you, get in there and like it. get in there and share it, get in there and comment on it. And that's that second piece where then you're telling the algorithms and you're telling the content creators and the developers who design all these things that content resonates with you. That content's important to you, and they'll start to give it more power. They're going to give it more emphasis on yours. But if enough of us do it, obviously, that's incredibly powerful for creating a much more positive digital world, which is pretty and these are fairly easy things to do, right? This isn't really changing much of the time you're spending online, or what platforms you're using. It's really just making a conscious decision to say, okay, I might like that Fail Army thing because it was pretty funny, but I'm also gonna like it when the local nonprofit says that they have a new volunteer that they're recognizing, and I'm gonna comment on. I'm gonna say, way to go. I'm gonna give added emphasis to the positive than to the negative, and it makes a huge difference. Whereas we see a lot of like Kardashian family hair pulling, where it's tremendous traction online, right? Like that often is the biggest news out there. And so I'm not saying to forget that stuff, because it is entertaining, right? Like people love it. You don't have to give up your guilty pleasures. But just remember that when you do see cool things, to leave some comments on it, and on top of that, you could leave like Google reviews for things that you really liked, right? Like if there's local restaurants, this is a great thing for local businesses to just say, hey, I had a great meal here, or this person had excellent service for me. This person went above and beyond. It means a lot, humanity-wise, right?
Totally.
Yeah, like that's something that we like. I just think of myself like, we have a cool electric bike, okay? And my kids sit in the back. It's one of these big wagon ones, so it's huge and it looks really unique. Anytime I ride it, someone yells from their car or yells from the park, and they yell, "Cool bike," or "Look at those kids," or "Isn't that fun," or whatever.
Yeah.
It feels good, right?
Totally.
Like it's so simple, and it's
Yeah.
a great hat, or it can be so small and it makes your day.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, it creates this like positive feedback loop, and especially when you're commending someone, if you, like you said, leaving a positive Google review, that's going to feel good for the business owner or the server, or whoever you're commenting on, and then that's going to actually like even intrinsically encourage them to like continue to provide good service, continue to be helpful, continue to go above and beyond. So yeah, I like explicitly communicating these kinds of enjoyable, positive aspects and interactions in our life. It's just going to encourage more, and then it's just going to come back around.
Absolutely. Like I believe in karma. I'm not into crystals and all these things, but I do believe in karma, and basically exactly for the reason that you said. If someone says something nice about you or something nice to you, you're kind of walking on air. It feels great, and it really does put you in this great mood that you do these things for other people almost subconsciously. And so to even challenge yourself to say, once a day, I'm going to tell a stranger that I like their shoes, or whatever it is. And just try that out for a while and see what type of impact it has. And then again, when you're online, which we're going to be, do that comment in the same type of habit, and it'll have a huge impact.
For sure.
And then last but not least is just hit the report button if you see any type of bullying or hatred online. All of these big tech companies, they have teams to crack down on this stuff, but they're obviously overwhelmed, right? Like you can never have a team big enough to really handle all this. And there's a lot of gray area, and it's very complicated. But if you see something within your online community that you think isn't right, when you hit that report button, someone will take a look at it, or something will take a look at it. Sometimes it's AI, but somebody will take a look at it, and if it's not something that should be on there, it usually does get removed fairly quickly, and it just helps the process that if it's down in an hour instead of 2 hours, it's more than half the people not seeing it and not acting on it. So it's something to keep in mind.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's like, it's important to highlight that is actually the best route to take, is to report, content, especially content that is like inappropriate or offensive or just anything like that. Instead of engaging with it, instead of commenting and saying this is terrible, nobody should be looking at this, because now you are actually feeding the system. So yeah, absolutely, just hit that report button.
and I can't think of a worse way to waste your time than to have a screaming fight on Facebook, right? Like we've all seen it, and it is absolutely cringeworthy to me, and I don't think it's productive at all, right? And I think it can be powerful if you can take it offline. Like we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode. Like, have you ever talked to someone that you knew that you put something online that you maybe didn't agree with or you didn't think was right, and just talk to them about it? Like, have you ever taken something like that offline?
No, I haven't, just because I don't engage. Yeah. But I do, like, I think that's worth it. And especially when, because we all have lots of family and friends, and, you can love someone and have a really close relationship, but have very polarizing views on certain things. So I think the ability to take that offline when you see someone post something that you don't agree with, a very healthy, very, very productive way to approach that.
Yeah, and I certainly don't mean everybody on your Facebook list, right? Like you could spend 3 lifetimes trying to talk to everybody, but I think once or twice, so not a lot, but I have been like, hey man, I saw that thing you put up there. Like, let's talk about it. I'm not going to talk, like, we're not going to discuss this on WhatsApp. We're not going to discuss it on Facebook, but I'm happy to talk about that if you want to like get into it. Cause I was curious. Like, I was like, I think that's pretty out there. So like, let's talk about it. Right. And I don't know that I changed anyone's mind, but I know that it was far more productive than screaming at them on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, the goal in those kinds of conversations, like, I think the main goal maybe shouldn't always be to change someone's mind, but just to understand each other and to have an opportunity to say, this is where I'm coming from and why I feel this way.
I love that. Yes. And just maybe make people feel heard, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes when people have marginalized ideas, it's because they are marginalized themselves maybe, or they feel like no one understands them or no one's listening to them. And so it's easier to glom onto ideas that are maybe not part of the mainstream, and the mainstream's not always right either, right? Like I don't mean to kind of push that either, but I think sometimes people gravitate towards those ideas because they already feel like they're not heard and not understood. So
exactly, everyone just wants to feel heard.
Totally. Yeah. So especially if it's someone you really love, right? You're showing them that you're not going to ostracize them for any reason. Like, you can have whatever ideas you want, and we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. And I think that's a very safe place for everybody to build their ideas and just be kind to one another. Really.
For sure. Yeah.
So some of the other ones are big actions. So we kind of went over some of the small things that you can do and the things that are really habits that you can just build into your day to day. But I also love big actions because I find big actions are very powerful, right? And I think for a lot of these people will say, well, hey, Sean, that's really hard, or that's going to take a long time. And you're absolutely right. They might. And what I've found in my 40 plus years is that when things are hard, they tend to be the most worthwhile, right? And it's things that are easy tend to be more fleeting, right? And so there's some really cool big actions that you can take, and often you can take them with your family or with your friends, and you can say, you know what, this is something I'm passionate about that maybe is getting a bad rap online, or maybe I just see it in my community and people are screaming about it online, but maybe I can do something about it. And if you have a teenager who's maybe a bit disengaged, this is such an amazing way to empower them, to make them feel like they have a voice and that they can get things done. And for you, I mean, what an amazing experience that you could have with your family as well. And this can be anything. Like, this could be starting a small charity. It could be a lemonade stand so that you can make some money to donate to something. It could be starting a home-based business where there's some type of social responsibility element. It can be all these things. It could be creating a skate park, a jungle gym at your local park, cleaning up something, right? Like, there's all these actions that you can take offline that have a real tangible impact in your community. Well, inevitably what's going to happen is, if you're like, okay, I want to build a skate park over here, you're probably going to go online to find out where to start. Like, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of moving parts there. And so you're still going to have this digital literacy, digital citizenship element, which, shout out to Kermode, you're going to go on there and you're going to find articles about how to get this started. What permits do I need? How much is this going to cost? Maybe you'll find a community that's already on this that you can join. And with Kermode, you can use their app to actually analyze those pages and it'll give you those 20 or 25 different elements of digital literacy. So not only are you doing this project-based learning where you're kind of learning how to learn and empowering you and your family to create change, but you're also getting these amazing digital literacy skills that are going to serve you throughout your life anytime that you want to do a project. And rest assured, we do projects every day, right? It could be about your own career, it could be about personal growth, it can be about a million things, but it's all that learning how to learn piece that we're not born with. It's not innate. We have to practice it, and we have to learn it, and that's really what these kind of cool projects can do. And I know people tell me like, oh, my teenagers they don't talk to me, or I can't get anything about them about their day. And you might have to pry it out of them, but they're passionate about something. I have absolutely no doubt. And when you get into the meat of it, and it's like, how do we fundraise? Who are we gonna get to help us? Do we need help? And as you research all this, you start to find those answers, and you start to build the power of the internet for like that positive power of the internet for accessing information, for finding support, for finding resources. And that's, like I always say, we talk a lot about some of the negative things about the internet, but that's an amazingly powerful tool for saying, okay, I've got this idea, or I've got this thing I want to do, and now I actually have all the information for free at the touch of a button if I'm willing to put in the work to find it, right? Like, and I have the skills to wade into all this information and be able to pull out some of the good from some of the bad.
Yeah.
And so, for sure, super hard, but it really does inspire that love of learning, and it gives kids a sense of self-worth and confidence that they may be lacking. And it's absolutely totally worth it, even if it's super hard. And as a parent, you really have to model that perseverance yourself. So kids listen to your words about a fraction of what they see in you and your actions. So you can say, hey, you can't quit this, get off the phone. You really have to model that perseverance, and I think there's a very good chance that it would stay with them for the rest of their life.
Yeah. I love that idea of doing that like as a family too, because then, certainly as kids get older and they start to, crave more dependence, like you said, it can be hard to kind of rope them in to do things with the family. But like kind of maybe setting this family goal, this project, okay, together, how can we tackle this? How can we approach this? And then just kind of using that as an opportunity to like, do this research. How do we do research? There's so much information out there. Where do we even start? That is such a skill. Like you said, like learning how to learn. So that's a great recommendation.
Yeah, and you think about it, like you work for a small business, like they're good size, but they're not huge. And so I imagine most days a huge part of it is critical thinking and problem solving. Like something hits your desk or it hits your email, and I have to figure this out. It's not like you're not a machine. You're not just screwing the tops on Coke bottles in a factory. Right? Like, is that something you find? Like your ability to learn how to learn has been a huge part of who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. You nailed it. Got it on the head. Like every day it's like, okay, how do I find the solution to this? Where do I find the answer? And honestly, like Googling is a skill. Learning how to do searches properly to get the results that you're looking for and not get a bunch of the results that you're not looking for. That is a really good skill to have. I think probably in most industries and jobs these days, and even in school. So absolutely, like getting your kids on there and showing them, how do we navigate the internet? How do we find the information that we're looking for?
And the confidence and self-worth to be wrong and ask questions too. So like you can do all that research on Google, but you could still have questions that you might have to ask someone that you don't know that well, or maybe is higher up. Like I feel like I deal with this all the time in a big company. I'm never quite sure if I'm bothering someone who's like way above me. But I feel like from these projects and from working on like learning to learn, a big part of it is like, hey, I don't know this, and I'm not shy about it. Like I'm not going to be shy to the point where I don't find out, because then I will just continue to not know.
Yeah.
So so that I think it's a little vague, but it's one of those big projects. Find out what you're passionate about and what your kids are passionate about, and get after it. Because do you have something that you think Like, do you have a big project, or have you ever done a big project or any size project with your family or close friends?
That's a great question. I have for sure had many lemonade stands as a kid growing up.
That's
Um,
nice.
yeah, I feel like I for sure would have had projects. I know, certainly like, I mean, even helping to garden is an example that comes to mind. It's like we had
Totally.
always had a big garden growing up, so I was always in there helping out where I could,
Yeah.
usually picking and eating the strawberries was my job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But it felt good to like be involved. And now as an adult, I'm like, I have a garden at my place because I had that experience as a kid and totally just watching my mom just kind of absorbing that knowledge. And now I feel confident and I feel knowledgeable enough to now tend to my own garden.
Yeah, and like that is an absolutely perfect example of learning how to learn. Like the garden is, it's not just throwing things in the ground
No.
and walking away. It's wildly complex. Like my wife just got into gardening, and it's fascinating. Like I'm not as into it as she is, but it's like all of the things that go into it is incredible, and it's such a cool skill to have. And like you say, that's an exceptional project, and you see that at a lot of schools now. They'll have the community garden because that's a great way to learn and get dirty, and then you have such a tangible result out of it. Like these strawberries are amazing. I did.
So rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, that was it for the creating positive content. And actually, if you're doing a big action or a big project, a great thing to do is blog about it, or live tweet it, or do a picture blog or whatever it is, because it really does inspire people. I think there's so many of us that don't feel like leaders because we look to like the ultimate leader that's out there, or like someone who's going big, has a big personality, or she's got a big job or whatever it is. But it's incredible how much leadership there is out there just in your friend group. And even when you look in the mirror, I think sometimes we're harder on ourselves um, than our friends really see us, and it takes a little bit of a wake up call for someone to be like, "Oh, really? Like you're anxious about that? Like I thought you were awesome at this and this and this." You're like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you put that out there, then there's a higher chance of people in your life saying, "Wow, that's so cool," and then you're like, "Oh, hey, thank you. Like that feels good. I'm going to do more of that. I'm going to put more effort and more time into that."
Absolutely. And okay, going back to the start of the episode, I think that kind of culture starts to reverberate your friend group, and hopefully outside of that, where you start to support each other a lot. If someone does something well, everyone speaks up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, oh, you'll just kind of offhandedly mention, oh yeah, you're so good at that thing, And I feel like that's happened in my friend group as we've gotten older. I think there was like some competitiveness in our late 20s, just because everyone was kind of lost, right? You're trying to find your way, and some people were doing better than others, and it's you wanted what they had, and you loved them to pieces, but there was that element of jealousy, probably, or competitiveness, and then it seems to have come around. Yeah, absolutely. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that even those feelings, those come from, in my opinion, like a deep desire. Like you want that for yourself. I think probably if that's someone that you love or someone close to you in your life, you're like, you are pumped for them. You are excited that they're doing that thing and that they're finding success. But it's like, if you feel that pang of like jealousy or envy, it's probably because you're like, I want that. I want success. So just like refocus your efforts and do that for yourself. There's so much room for everybody.
And especially like if they're willing to help you, like that's what I found too, is often when I was jealous of a friend, it was because they were like very successful financially and in work, and I was always like, I want that, right? But you didn't really look at, oh, you know what, I'm kind of that person to lots of other people too, right? And I don't care, like it means nothing to me. And I always found those people in those positions were always really willing to help. Like it's sort of a different vibe if they're doing really well and they're throwing it in your face. Like that's probably not a great friend. But I think, yeah, I'm thinking of two people specifically, and they were both, when I look back, I was jealous of them, and they were also like totally willing to help me with whatever I asked for around business or work or career.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I like to believe that there's more people like that out there than the opposite. More people that are willing to help and willing to share the secrets to success.
I think you're absolutely right. Digital literacy, what I think we get on the internet all too often is whoever's the loudest or the most extreme, either in their negativity or their bravado or what have you, they get a lot of attention from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's often been a successful way to get engagement online, is to be the loudest, most obnoxious person. And so coming back to creating positive content, let's reward people for not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can start to be more positive. But yeah, that's all I had for creating positive content for today.
Great. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah,
and I think, like, just kind of circling back to that negative content that just like kind of sucks people in, can suck you into that like doom scrolling, that like, okay, give me more, what's going on in the comment feed, what's the next awful thing that's happening. How do you think we manage that kind of scrolling, that kind of consumption on the internet?
Yeah. I saw an article about doom scrolling just the other day, and it was basically, I think the headline was "Doom scrolling is bad for your mental health," and I was like, "Oh, you don't say." Sarcasm. Thick with sarcasm, and and it's been bad for a lot of people for a little while, right? We've been at home a lot more the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of negative things floating around, and you can really, really get sucked in. And so some of the things you can do is just like practice not picking up your phone when you're bored. And I don't know, everyone I know is guilty of it. I'm certainly guilty of it. But have some trigger that you're like, okay, I just picked up my phone and it wasn't for work. It wasn't to call my mom. I'm just on here to kill time. Like, have somewhere, okay, I can't do that. Like, I have to grab a book, or I have to do push-ups, or I have to do blank, like something positive. I got to make dinner. I got to do something, and have really specific times, because I still like getting on my phone and like talking to friends and stuff. But instead of just having it be that like time suck, I'm bored and I'm just wasting time until the next thing comes up. What I've started to do is, for my personal phone, I have a work phone and a personal phone. My work phone's super boring, just phone and email. Yeah. And then my personal phone, I'm addicted to WhatsApp. That's sort of my like friends trash talk area, and I check it. If I let myself, I check it almost like crazily. Like, it's just every 5 minutes. It's not a good habit. And so I started to say, okay, I can't check my phone until lunch, and then I can't check it again after that until after work or after 5 or 6 or something. And that really helped. Like, it was just like, just put your phone away. And I found I was more productive and probably a lot happier.
That's smart.
Time. So if you can work those things, those habits into your daily life, I think that will help a lot if you're really doom scrolling a lot and feeling those negative mental health aspects of it. And another nice way is just to break up any online media consumption with like something in real life. So if you see something when you're doom scrolling that you're angry about or you're upset about, put the phone down and talk about that thing. Don't just go to the next headline and the next headline. Even if you need to pick up the phone, your significant other's not right there or your family member's not right there, find a way to say, okay, this one thing is bothering me. I want to get into it. I want to talk about it. I want to vent what I'm feeling and maybe unpack that issue a bit more. Don't keep going on from like forest fire to COVID to politics to war to, you know what I mean? It can just, it really does go on forever. So
for sure, no shortage.
Yeah. So really find that if you find one thing, sometimes you can't just slough it off. It's something that's a big deal. Find somebody and talk about it and really get into it before you just get sucked into your phone.
Yeah, great tip. Call your friends, call your mom, call your
mom.
Always, person.
Yeah, always the best answer is call your mom.
Yeah. That's not helped.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
I do want to be mindful of time, but Sean, we do have one question from the audience this week. I'd love to get your insight onto it. And that question is, how can I help my kids avoid online bullying?
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough question. I can't think of anything more heartbreaking than kids being bullied online. It was not my school experience because the internet wasn't a big deal when I was going to school. But bullying was there, obviously, and it was awful. And it just, with online bullying, it stepped up such a huge notch because it's so anonymous and so easy to get out of control and say awful things. So I don't have a silver bullet to say your kids can avoid bullying. I think the metaphor for driving a car is pretty apt. It's like, even your kid, if they're driving, they're never going to be completely safe. You have to teach them digital literacy, media literacy, digital citizenship. Make sure they understand they have a community around them that is stronger than any bullying that they're ever going to see in their life. And that really, once you're out of high school, for most people, it really doesn't, it's not everybody, but for most people, once you're out of high school, bullying becomes a non-issue. Like, you're mature enough to handle a lot of it. And so really understanding that this is temporary, and to get through it, and to understand that you're stronger than this, hopefully, and you have this community around you, is pretty big. And you can't really just say don't go online, because it's still going to get back to you, right? If your kids are in school, like, someone will mention it, someone will say something. So I don't know that avoiding the online world altogether is a real solution. It's really just making sure they understand that they're loved, and that you're there to listen to them. And obviously, if it's so extreme, then you have to be an adult. You have to intervene and talk to people who are in charge and can potentially help. But it's just awful. If any of you are going through bullying, kids or families out there, my heart goes out to you. It's awful. And hopefully the more positive content we create online, the less bullying we'll have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, use that report button, use that block button. Don't have to tolerate any kind of bullying behavior. So I would say, make sure that your kids and your teens are aware that that's an option, and they don't need to tolerate that either. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But yeah, we've gone on for longer than we yet again. All of these 30-minute, 15-minute episodes we were going to do.
Yeah, there's just so much to cover, so much great conversation.
Yeah, I love it, Paige. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I have an absolute blast every time we get together, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next month.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks again, Sean. We'll see you next month.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Again, we apologize for going a little bit longer, but just such a great conversation. It's always a pleasure to have Sean on with us. So we hope that you will join us again next week for our next SSK Cyber Club, and that will be on Wednesday, October 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or was that 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And in the meantime, you can subscribe to the Kermode YouTube channel to keep up to date with our show and all the awesome updates from our friends at Kermode Education. We want to shout them out again for sponsoring this and making this all happen. If you would like more information on Kermode and all the ways that they can help your family, your school, your public library become safer, smarter, and kinder digital citizens, then contact their team at info@kermodeeducation.com, or you can visit them anytime at www.kermodeeducation.com. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you again next month. Bye, everybody.